Bien. Bonjour, bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien pour la presse, en direct et en ligne. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le jeudi 17 décembre. Before moving on to your questions, we have, as usual, a few announcements. First, I would like to welcome on behalf of the President and the whole College the adoption of the next long-term EU budget by the EU legislators. All the conditions have now been fulfilled for the next multi-annual financial framework to be in place as of the 1st of January 2021, making almost 1.1 trillion euro available for beneficiaries of EU funding during the next 7 years. Once the new own resources decision is approved by member states in accordance with their constitutional requirements, we will also be able to launch Next Generation EU to fuel Europe's recovery. We will then have an additional amount, firepower if you wish, of 750 billion euros to provide European people, businesses, regions, and cities with the support they urgently need to recover from the pandemic. We can now start building a greener, more digital and more resilient Europe, ready for today's and tomorrow's challenges. More information is available online in a press release and the question and answers. And now let me pass the floor to Stéphane, who has good news on the vaccine front. Stéphane.
Bonjour tout le monde. En effet, une bonne nouvelle. Aujourd'hui, la Commission européenne a conclu des pourparlers exploratoires avec la société pharmaceutique Novavax pour l'achat de son vaccin potentiel contre le Covid-19. Le contrat envisagé avec Novavax prévoit la possibilité, ou donnerait la possibilité aux États membres d'acheter 100 millions de doses avec une option de 100 millions de doses supplémentaires. La finalisation de ces pourparlers s'ajoute à un large portefeuille déjà sécurisé de vaccins, y inclut des contrats déjà signés avec AstraZeneca, Sanofi GSK, Johnson & Johnson, BioNTech Pfizer, CureVac et Moderna. L'objectif, comme vous savez, est d'établir un portefeuille de vaccins diversifiés pour garantir que l'Europe sera bien préparée pour la vaccination une fois des vaccins se sont révélés sûrs et efficaces. Comme d'habitude, plus d'informations dans notre press corner. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Stéphane. Et je rajoute que vous aurez peut-être vu un tweet qui vient d'être publié sur le compte de la présidente, annonçant que les vaccinations commenceront en Europe du 27 au 29 décembre, donc des journées européennes de vaccination, qui lanceront donc le mouvement de vaccination à travers l'Union européenne. En ce qui concerne les visioconférences du jour, le vice-président exécutif Frans Timmermans et le commissaire Virginijus Sinkevičius participent aujourd'hui au Conseil environnement. Les ministres discuteront du règlement sur le droit européen du climat, de la contribution déterminée au niveau national mise à jour à la Convention cadre des Nations Unies sur les changements climatiques. Les ministres adopteront également des conclusions sur la mise en place de la récupération verte et circulaire, et ils auront un débat sur la stratégie de la durabilité dans le domaine des produits chimiques, proposée récemment par la Commission. Une conférence de presse avec le commissaire Sinkevičius aura lieu vers 18 h. Je tiens à vous rappeler que nous aurons encore un briefing technique off the record pour vous cet après-midi à 13h30 sur les recommandations aux États membres concernant leur plan stratégique pour la politique agricole commune. Finally, I would like to recall that the fifth ordinary meeting of the EU-UK Joint Committee will begin in a few moments. Vice President Maroš Šefčovič will make a statement in the VIP corner at around 2:45 this afternoon. This concludes our announcements for today, and we are ready to take your questions. I start with David.
Oui, merci Eric. Excuse-moi, je n'allume pas ma caméra, mais j'ai des problèmes de connexion. Une question sur l'annonce de la présidente. Comment c'est possible qu'elle fasse cette annonce, même s'il n'y a pas encore l'évaluation de la part de l'Agence européenne des médicaments par rapport à sa recommandation sur le vaccin Pfizer-BioNTech?
Merci beaucoup pour ta question. Tu as bien entendu tout à fait raison de souligner que ceci est évidemment conditionnel, lié à l'autorisation qui doit d'abord être délivrée par la Commission européenne sur base d'une évaluation positive qui serait donnée par l'Agence européenne des médicaments. Mais dans le cas où tout ceci se déroule comme prévu, alors nous lancerons le processus de vaccination du 27 au 29 décembre. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur le sujet des vaccinations? Merci de ne garder votre main levée que si vous avez des questions sur ce sujet. Nous reviendrons plus tard sur d'autres sujets. Et je passe la parole à, je ne suis pas sûr de correctement prononcer le nom, Mojca. On vaccination.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. My question is on a court case between the European Commission and Slovenia, not on the vaccines.
Okay,
right now.
we will come back to you later, Mojca. Lily. Lily, you have the floor. We can see you, Lily. You have your mask on. I hope your microphone is on the right source. Okay, we've lost you. Sorry, it's not on this subject, I see. Okay, Caroline.
Yes, thank you, Eric, for taking my question. It is indeed on the vaccine. Given the fact that the first vaccine now seems to be around the corner, could you give us the latest on the EU Commission's efforts to bring the vaccine to other parts of the world as well, both logistically and financially, especially considering the fact that the BioNTech vaccine needs special storage and that might be difficult for other parts of the world? And I would be interested in the EU Commission's efforts to facilitating the rollout of the vaccine in these parts of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what I can say is that this is indeed an issue which is being looked into seriously by the college. You may have seen this morning that there was a meeting of the group of commissioners dealing with the coronavirus, the response, during which this specific issue was raised. What I can say is that lots of contacts are taking place with countries, for example, in our neighborhood, and also, of course, more widely, in the context of the COVAX facility. So these are ongoing efforts that will come to fruition, of course, later on. But let me just remind you of one thing. This is not related solely to the first vaccine that will become available. We have been negotiating a portfolio of vaccines. Some, we hope, will be approved at a later stage. They will all have different conditions, different constraints, some lighter, some heavier when it comes to the conditions under which they can be shipped around, and all this needs to be taken into account. Let us stick on questions related to vaccination. Mojca, I would ask you to unraise your hand, please, for the moment. We will come back to you. I've noted down your name. Tommaso, you have a question on vaccines.
Yes, good morning, Tommaso Galavotti and Kronos. It's just a simple question. It's I apologize for being repetitive, but it would be useful if you could repeat us the procedure after the possible green light by the EMA to the vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech. I guess that it passes from comitology, but if you could remind us of the procedure after, it would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommaso. Indeed, I think this has been described a certain number of times here on the podium and also in some of our documents, but I pass the floor to Stefan.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. Indeed, I think you will find some useful information in the Q&As that we have published last Friday. But just to explain you in a few words, once we have a positive recommendation from EMA, the Commission indeed has to take a decision authorizing the marketing of this vaccine. To do so, the Commission checks a few elements. It will also consult with the Member States in the context of what you indeed correctly refer to as comitology. Member States will be asked for their opinion, and following the opinion, the endorsement of the Member States, the Commission can then take its decision putting the product on the market. I would like to stress that we will do this within 2 days. In similar cases, this procedure is something that could take up to 67 days. So we are really speeding up the process as much as we can. But more information, as I said, you will find on our Q&A document on the press corner published last Friday. Thank you.
Okay, we continue on this theme. Griselda.
Que vous pouvez expliquer pourquoi 3 jours? Moi, j'avais bien compris que l'Union commencerait le même jour dans tous les États membres. Le même jour, ça avait l'air d'être un jour. Bon, c'est vrai, 3 jours, un après l'autre, ça fait peut-être la même chose, mais j'aimerais savoir pourquoi. Merci.
Merci. Ce qu'il convient de préciser, c'est que les livraisons commenceront le 26 ou commenceraient le 26 dans la mesure où évidemment il y aurait une autorisation de mise sur le marché des livrets. Ensuite, il faut que chaque État s'organise. Ce qui est important en Griselda, c'est que ce soit un effort coordonné. Ce n'est pas un processus d'apothicaire où il convient que chacun, dans les mêmes 7 heures, soit en train de faire la vaccination. Tu sais que nous sommes un grand continent, 450 millions d'habitants, 27 États membres, du nord au sud, à l'est, à l'ouest. Les conditions peuvent varier et donc il est absolument normal qu'il y ait une certaine plage de temps qui soit disponible pour lancer les premières vaccinations. C'est un petit peu ça la philosophie. Ce qui compte, ce n'est pas tellement le jour, c'est le fait que ce soit un effort coordonné par les États membres avec la Commission européenne pour lancer la phase de vaccination. Jillian.
Hi, thanks so much. I just want to double check that I have the logistics of the vaccine distribution done accurately. So the vaccine days will be December 27th to the 29th. The EMA is going to meet this coming Monday on the 21st. And then it'll take, 2 days for the Commission to approve that vaccine, and then the deliveries will start on the 26th. Is that all correct?
I will pass the floor to Stéphane, but as far as I understand, yes. I mean, the Commission has up to 3 days, we've said, in order to deliver its decision on the placing on the market, but it's a maximum period. We'll see in what time frame we can do it. But apart from that, I think it's correct. Stéphane, can you confirm?
Yes, indeed. So first we need the Commission to take the decision putting the vaccine on the market, which will be done within 2 days, as I explained. And then the deliveries have to take place, deliveries by the company to the Member States. And then it's, of course, still possible, but this has to be organized by the Member States. The distributions take place from the central vaccine hub to other vaccination centers in the Member States. And this is how it will be organized.
Thank you, Stéphane. Jillian.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so just to make sure then, so the vaccine hubs are, I know a lot of the vaccine producers for the BioNTech and Pfizer vaccine are in Belgium and Germany. So on 26th, that's when these, assuming that it's approved, those will start to be rolled out. Could we assume then that probably Belgium, Germany will get these vaccines first before then they start to get to all the other EU countries, and that's why you have 3 separate vaccine days?
No, you can't deduce one from the other, Jillian. The fact is that we are in contact with member states, and it is considered wiser in view of the size of the European Union, the diversity of situations, to have a certain number of days to launch the campaign. But the vaccines will start being delivered on the 26th. I see no further questions on this issue, so I come back to Mojca.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thanks again. My question is on a court case delivered today by the European Court of Justice, and I want to how does the Commission comment this judgment in the case Commission versus Slovenia in relation to the unviability of the archives of the European Central Bank? And another thing, was there any kind of talks between the Commission and the Slovenian government before this judgment, following the letter by the Prime Minister Janez Janša looking for a way for the Commission to withdraw the action at the court? Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question for Marta.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. So on the comment of the Commission on this case, so the Commission takes note of today's judgment of the Court of Justice in the infringement case that it brought against Slovenia. The court confirms that Slovenia infringed the principle of unavailability of the archives of the Union by unilaterally seizing documents that are part of the archives of the European Central Bank. And the particularity of this case was that those archives were not stored at the premises of the ECB, but actually at the premises of the Slovenian Central Bank in its role as part of the European system of central banks and its functions under the EU law. The court also rules that by not cooperating properly with the ECB, Slovenia failed to fulfill its obligations of sincere cooperation. The Commission will, of course, now study in more details this ruling, in particular given its importance from the perspective of understanding what constitutes an archive of the Union. And now when it comes to your second question on the contacts between the Commission and the Slovenian government, you might remember indeed that the Commission President has received a letter this summer from the Prime Minister, and the President replied, of course, to this letter. In her response, the President confirmed the willingness of the Commission to keep the dialogue open with Slovenia on this matter in the spirit of sincere cooperation, of course, as with all member states. But the Commission understands that the Slovenian authorities and the ECB have been discussing the matter without success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there another question on this specific court case? Perhaps from Petra. Is it on this, Petra?
Yes, it is on this.
We cannot hear you almost. Let's raise the sound level. Your mic source is correct, it's just it's very low. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I have a follow-up question. Could you tell us, Marta, what exactly do you expect Slovenia to do now? And if there is any time frame in which the judgment has to be implemented? Thank you.
Marta.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Petra. I can be extremely brief, of course, on this matter. As with all court judgment, we expect Slovenia to comply with the judgment that was issued today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions on this specific court case? Georgi, you have a question on this court case? If not, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. So I now go to Lionel. I know you have a question on another court case.
Ça sera plus ou moins la même question finalement. Bonjour, c'est sur la. Bonjour Eric.
Bonjour.
C'est sur l'affaire de ce matin qui condamne la Hongrie. La Cour a été assez ferme sur 4 points, le non-respect de l'état de droit, enfin le manquement est flagrant. Et je voudrais avoir la réaction de la Commission et sur l'état de droit évidemment, autour de l'état de droit et ce que vous attendez de la Hongrie désormais. Merci.
Merci. Question pour Adalbert.
Bonjour, je ne sais pas si vous m'entendez bien.
On t'entend et on te voit.
Parfait. Donc la Commission prend note du jugement de la Cour de justice dans ce cas, qui confirme la violation par la Hongrie de ses obligations dans le droit européen, y compris la Charte des droits fondamentaux. Et ceci concerne plusieurs questions importantes. Premièrement, le manque d'accès effectif à la procédure d'asile, telle que demandée par le droit européen. Ensuite, l'existence d'une procédure à la frontière qui viole également des obligations qui sont présentes dans l'acquis européen concernant l'asile. Ensuite, la détention des demandeurs d'asile dans 2 zones de transit à la frontière entre la Hongrie et la Serbie, également en violation des garanties qui sont applicables dans le droit européen. Ensuite, la privation de certains demandeurs d'asile qui font appel contre une décision de refus de l'asile, la privation de ces personnes du droit de rester sur le territoire, qui est également garanti par le droit européen pendant cette procédure d'appel. Et enfin, une pratique de retour des demandeurs d'asile en Serbie, à la frontière de la Hongrie, qui sont également en violation de certaines garanties par le droit européen, dans le droit européen, et en particulier dans la directive retour. En ce qui concerne les prochaines étapes, dans un premier temps, la Commission va écrire une lettre aux autorités hongroises pour demander quelles sont les prochaines étapes que la Hongrie compte prendre afin d'assurer la compliance avec tous les aspects de ce jugement, y compris la nécessité d'assurer un accès effectif à la procédure d'asile.
Je pense que tu voulais dire la mise en œuvre du jugement, le respect du jugement. Merci. Lionel, tu as une question de suivi.
Oui, parce que la réponse est claire, elle est bien, mais est-ce qu'elle peut être un peu plus ramassée? J'en ai besoin pour un sujet ce soir. Sur l'état de droit, justement, ça fait la Hongrie, sur le même sujet, a été condamnée au mois de mai, dans une demande préjudicielle, mais donc est-ce qu'il pourrait y avoir, voilà, je ne sais pas, si c'est possible. Hein. Merci, parce que prendre note, c'est bien, mais vous êtes partie, là, dans cette affaire, vous êtes partie prenante à la procédure, puisque c'est un manquement intenté par la Commission, donc voilà. Merci, si ça peut être un peu plus, voilà. Merci.
Écoute, on n'est pas là vraiment pour muscler nos réponses en fonction des besoins de ton journal télévisé. Je suis vraiment désolé, Lionel. Tu peux, je pense, prendre des extraits de la réponse d'Adalbert. Je ne sais pas s'il veut résumer en une phrase ce qu'il a dit. Adalbert.
Je peux essayer de répéter peut-être dans un français un peu meilleur que la Commission compte écrire une lettre aux autorités hongroises afin de s'assurer de la bonne mise en œuvre de ce jugement par les autorités.
Merci beaucoup. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur ce jugement? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this. Lorne, you have a question on this.
Yes, I do. Lorne Cook at Associated Press. Adalbert, I noticed when you were reading out the Commission's position there, that some of the elements actually seem to resemble what the Pact for Asylum and Migration is planning to do in the Greek islands. For example, the border procedures and the detention of asylum seekers under the Pact proposals. You are in fact suggesting that the Greek islands will become like a kind of an airport transit lounge where people who are in there have no particular right of having actually entered European territory. They may be kept in detention throughout that procedure. Member states can do that. Doesn't that seem a little hypocritical?
Adalbert.
Thank you, Lorne. I think I need to be very, very clear about this. The Pact and the proposals that we made as part of the Pact are based on very sound principles, which include effective access to the asylum procedure, full protection of fundamental rights, and any procedures that are part of the proposals are based on sound guarantees in EU law, including, for example, any applicable time limits when it comes to any use of detention, or the right to an effective remedy in case of any negative decisions, or in fact any decisions affecting asylum seekers or persons subject to return procedure. Similarly, any detention decisions under EU law need to be individual, and these guarantees are fully present in the new Pact on Migration and Asylum, while today's judgment concerns the violation in Hungarian law of many of these essential issues. So I would not compare the proposals under the new pact, which again fully respect fundamental rights, with the issue at stake today.
Thank you very much. I think this closes the issue, so I open the floor to other issues, and we try to go back to Lily, who had raised her hand among the very first. Lily, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about the technical issues earlier. I have a question about President von der Leyen. Given that she was at the European Council summit, and given that President Emmanuel Macron has tested positive for the coronavirus, I was wondering, first of all, when the President von der Leyen's last COVID test took place, and whether she plans on self-isolating right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Her last COVID test took place on Monday, as every week, and no, she has no plans on self-isolating. Are there other questions on this particular issue? Although, to be honest, I have very little to add. Enrique, do you have a question on this? Enrique, press speak.
Maintenant. Vous m'entendez?
Nous t'entendons, oui.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais savoir, parce que la ministre espagnole de l'Emploi, elle a eu des réunions ce matin à la Commission avec le commissaire Smith et le commissaire Gentiloni. Je voudrais savoir quels ont été les résultats de cette réunion. Merci.
D'accord, ça n'était pas du tout une question sur la présidente de la commission et le test Covid, mais comme je ne vois pas d'autres mains levées sur ce sujet, nous allons prendre celle-là, mais cela dit, je ne pense pas que nous soyons en mesure de répondre à cela. Je passe brièvement la parole à Marta, mais je pense qu'il faudra que nous revenions vers toi sur ce sujet. Marta?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. The meetings are actually taking place as we speak. So unfortunately, I'm not in a position for the moment to give you a readout. But of course, as soon as I'm in a position to send you something in writing, I'll be happy to do so. Thank you.
Merci. Pierre? Je crois que tu avais une question sur la présidente.
Oui, je voulais juste savoir si ce sont vos services qui ont pris contact avec l'Élysée ou si c'est l'Élysée qui a spontanément envoyé l'information.
Excuse-moi, je ne comprends pas de quelle information il s'agit. Nous n'avons pas pris contact avec l'Élysée pour savoir si le président Macron avait contracté le virus. Bien entendu, nous l'avons appris.
Sur le fait que la présidente n'était pas considérée comme cas contact.
Non, mais j'ai été en contact, nous avons été en contact avec l'Élysée, qui nous a bien précisé les conditions dans lesquelles une personne pouvait être considérée contact d'après eux, et la présidente ne correspondait pas à cette situation. Pour rappel, il y a eu un dîner à l'Élysée dimanche. C'est le dernier contact qu'il y a eu entre la présidente et le président Macron, et il n'est considéré comme ça n'est pas considéré comme un moment où il était potentiellement contagieux. Voilà, y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous sur ce sujet? Je n'en vois pas, et donc j'ouvre et je passe la parole directement à Georgi, qui avait demandé la parole précédemment. Georgi. Il faut saisir ta chance.
Lily a posé ma question, donc voilà, c'est fait.
Alors c'est parfait, merci beaucoup. n'hésite pas à le signaler dans le chat. Très bien. Alors, nous passons à d'autres sujets et je passe la parole à Mira.
Me?
Bonjour.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes. Hi. Maybe you can see me also. I have a question on Venezuela. Hi. Do we have something new on Venezuela and the recognizing of the National Assembly after the meeting from foreign ministers in Berlin this week? Thank you.
Thank you. This will be a question for Nabila.
Et la pièce s'assombrit. Quand je dois mettre
vas-y.
Ou de quel côté?
Tu peux enlever ton masque.
Hello, Mira. I'm sorry, but not much to add to what the HRVP has said at the FAC on Venezuela. As you know, we will have maybe more news on the 5th of January, but at this point, I cannot add anything to what the HRVP has said following the FAC, where the question on Venezuela was actually part of the issues discussed by the foreign ministers.
Thank you. Are there other questions on foreign affairs for Nabila today? Maria. Ah, pardon. C'est Giuseppe, mais je ne voyais pas le bon nom affiché. Désolé. Giuseppe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, apologies for that.
Yeah, don't worry. Okay, I'm asking you one thing concerning Giulio Regeni case. You know, the Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio has proposed to involve directly European Union to put pressure on Egypt on this case. So I'm asking you, has Italy already contacted you? Are you, the European Commission or the EIS, activating in some ways? And are there any sanctions on the table? So what can you tell me about? Thank you.
Nabila.
Thank you, Giuseppe, for your questions. As you know, the European Union continues to follow closely the case of Giulio Regeni. We have always raised the case in our bilateral meetings and contacts, asking the Egyptian authorities to fully cooperate with the Italian authorities in order to clarify the circumstances of the death of Regeni. This case matters for the entire European Union, not just for a member state. We have and we will continue closely to liaise with the Italian authorities, who have our full support. And as we said from the beginning, the European Union stands at the side of the Regeni family to help finding the truth. As for your questions on sanction, as you know, under the sanction regime, or in general in any sanction regime, it is up and it is ultimately for the Council to decide. And so far, I'm not aware of any discussions between the HRVP and Italian Foreign Minister.
Thank you. Are there other questions on foreign relations issues for Nabila or for Peter today? Peter's not here, yes, but you would take them. I do not see any, so are there other questions for us today? Nikolai.
Yes, Nikolai Nielsen, E-Observer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I had a migration-related question. So for the past 9 months, around 1,000 people, including some 300 kids, have been living in the Malakasa camp outside of Athens. So this site received 4.9 million euros of EU funding from the AMIF. anyways, the tents are waterlogged and there is no running water. So it doesn't seem normal that for 4.9 million euros, there is still no running water after 9 months, and that people are forced to live in waterlogged tents. So my question to you, is the Commission satisfied how European taxpayer money is being spent in this particular camp? Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Adalbert.
Thank you, Nikolai. I am, of course, aware of the general difficulties in many reception centers in Greece, particularly on the islands. And as you know, the Commission is very actively involved with the Greek authorities in supporting them in order to improve the situation in the different camps. I do not have to hand specific information about the Malakasa camp, so if you allow us, I will get back to you on this more specifically. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Adalbert today? That is not the case, so I go back to Tommaso. Tommaso, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning. It's a question for competition, if I may. It's about ILVA, because I've read this morning that Domenico Arcuri, who's the CEO of Invitalia, said that the Italian authorities notified to the Commission the operation by which Invitalia acquires the part of the business which manages the former ILVA steel plant in Taranto. I wonder if you can confirm us that this is the case and if you are considering the matter. Thank you.
Arianna. Oh, we cannot hear you, Arianna.
Sorry, I had muted myself. Do you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So, Tommaso, as far as I know, this transaction has not been notified to the Commission. It is up to the companies to notify to the Commission if the transaction has an EU dimension. If it has been said, of course, it could have happened in the last minute, so I would be very happy to double check and get back to you.
Thank you, Arianna. Other questions on competition policy for Arianna today? Tommaso, you have a follow-up. No?
No.
Yes?
No.
Yes? Okay.
No.
Good. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for us today? No, so thank you very much and see you tomorrow for what will be the last midday of the year. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.